Um, well, we're the cool kids, and according to the video, we're here to predict the future of what China will look like in the year 2050. And our thesis is in 2050, China will not be the world power as it has been predicted to be by a lot of people. And we're basing our facts based on like the population and pollution in the country today. And we're going to talk about China's population, the one-child policy, new problems that lay ahead, the pollution, consequences, and industrialization. So so China in the 15th century was the most dominant country in the world. Half of the world's GDP was produced by China as they were the center of trade. And to date, China continues to grow, adopting techniques from other countries and coming up with things of their own. Everything seems to be going well for China, but there are factors that are currently and will eventually take charge of their global leader goal. And one of these factors that we're going to talk about is population.
In 1850, quarter of the world population lived in China, and there was a lot of people lived in just a small piece of land. And Chinese government saw a problem in this, and that is why in 1979 the Chinese government proposed the one-child policy, which is basically a method of controlling the Chinese population growth. And all of scholars argued that this policy has some bad effects as well as positive effects. And the positive effect is that eventually this policy will help China to decrease its population. But it will generate new problems. And those problems are it will create issues such as aging population and will put a lot of burden on the new generations. And I just want to read a quote by a scholar named John Jowett. And what he says is, in the culture where Chinese parents have traditionally relied on their children, especially sons, as the best strategy for old age security, the one-child policy would lead to too many dependent old and too few working young to fulfill these social obligations, and it will create social problems. And as you can see in the background picture, this baby has to carry a lot of responsibilities and carry a lot about his parents, grandparents, and so forth.
And as China's population continues to increase, a large portion of the population has been moving into the cities to look for work because China recently has been experiencing rapid industrialization, which has led to its vast economic growth that we've seen in the past few years. But because of this vast industrialization and the many citizens that are looking for jobs currently, this has led to many more factories and many more cars on the road, and both of those combined have led to China using much more coal than before. And all the new factories and the new cars on the road, which in turn has led to all the coal that has been used, led to much pollution in the country, since coal is the main source of energy for China as a country and also their main source of pollution. So one of the major problems that's come out of the coal is the air pollution. And many have estimated that in China, the air pollution has now reached limits that are 40 times the safe limit that has been set. And ample evidence has been supported by the Health Effects Institute that the air pollution is a major health hazard for China as a whole. In most cities in China, the skyline is no longer visible. And once in the Shanghai province, a factory burned for 3 hours before someone noticed the difference between the normal smog that is present and the smoke coming from the fire and called for help. And out of the 20 most polluted cities in the entire world, 16 of those are located just in China. And most cities in China don't meet the minimum air quality standards that have been set. All this air pollution can shorten your lifespan up to 6 years because of the many problems that it can cause. And the World Health Organization has estimated that of the 7 million people worldwide each year that are killed by air pollution, 40% of those live in China alone. And all this air pollution has been linked to many diseases, including cancer, heart disease, stroke, birth defects, premature deaths, and many respiratory problems. Some of these birth defects include autism, depression, and long-term lung damage. The World Health Organization has also found that air pollution alone causes more deaths than AIDS, diabetes, and road injuries combined.
So in addition to the air pollution, the population growth has also been negatively impacting land and water. One of the issues that it's been causing for land is that because they have such a large population, they don't have enough supply for their demand. So they don't have enough land to produce food to support their population and have become very dependent on imports. Another issue that they've had is because of their rapid industrialization, they're experiencing land deterioration very quickly, and more than 20% of China's farmland is polluted. Issues arriving with water pollution. 60% of China's water is too polluted for human consumption, and the rapid industrialization of China and the country's overuse of coal have both played into China's severe water pollution. This has also caused problems with their economy. So, in 2012, 4 major Chinese cities lost over $1 billion from smog-related incidences, and that cost can be expected to increase as their pollution increases in the coming years. In addition to that, tourism in Beijing dropped by 50% this year alone because of pollution. So some of the things that China's trying to do as a pollution solution is they are actually selling canned air. They have apps on their phones that will report to them the daily levels of the pollution in the air, and all the citizens are encouraged to wear masks.
So we have seen so far how Chinese population growth affected its economy, its pollution levels, but there are also 3 other big issues that out there, and 3 scholars that we found argued about those issues. So the first issue is declining labor availability, and what it means is the scholar named Nicholas Eberstadt, he argued that Chinese growth in the 1990s was due to an extraordinary increase in the manpower in the workforce. So those people who work, they help China to industrialize. But right now, they experience declining labor availability. So that less and less people who are able to work in factories in such workplaces. And the second problem is social security problems. As I said, there are a lot of old people in China, and in the future, Chinese government would hope to help those old people, support them with money and other benefits. And this scholar, Beng Xijie, argued that the biggest issue that the elderly people create is social security problems. The given amount of people who are entitled to receive social support in the future, China faces tremendous challenge in its effort to establish a well-functioning social security problems. And the last problem is the bride shortage. Dr. Woods, in his last lecture in the US class, argued about there is currently a mismatch between males and females in the Chinese society. There are by far more males than females, and it creates a lot of social problems, like a lot of men are basically alone, they don't have wives, and just a lot of inside the community issues. And what this scholar argued, Nicholas Eberstadt again, that in the future this decline, this mismatch between males and females will only increase. And he gave statistics that the surplus of China's males in their 20s will likely to exceed the entire population of Taiwan. And the Taiwan population, just as a footnote, is 23.34 million people. So it will be a lot of old people.
So that's our prediction.
I'm just gonna give a quick rundown of what we talked about. We talked about China's population and how the increasing rate, and there's a high increase in the rate of the population, and there's not enough measures to control it. The one-child policy that was implemented to control that population has a lot of negative side effects to it. The large population has led to many problems geographically with like air, water, land pollution, and all the other things that we talked about that leads to the economic falling, and then many problems that China is now facing will cause future problems like gender inequality, like social security problems, declining manpower availability, and all that other stuff that we talked about as well. Thank you.
Yes,